Shalom. Call halal Yahweh B'Shem Havashai Bahashem Rakakadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird among the heathen nations, the Israelite foreigners, and to the Akwath that are listening and learning. To you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you with another lesson in truth. And came across this video, and the title of it is Why the Mainstream Media, or Why Public Schools and Mainstream Media Dumb Us Down. And the quick answer is that it does not benefit the government to have a well-informed people. As a matter of fact, they couldn't, because this society would never work if the people were informed on the truth about all matters. And you have to understand that this is Esau Edom using witchcraft and lies and pseudoscience, false science that he creates to control the people. And it's never more evident than it is now with this whole pandemic and this COVID scare, being that there are diseases that have been along for, for decades, that have been devastating people around the world, that are far more dangerous than COVID. COVID isn't really killing anyone, but yet they're pushing the narrative and they're creating false science, behind it. And then they're using the media and the schools to push it. Okay? But in this video, they're going to break down how they lie to the people to control the people. Because, the best education that one can get, Teddy Roosevelt basically mentioned it. Matter of fact, let me pull up his quote. He mentioned that here it is. This is Theodore Roosevelt on the internet, and you can look it up, and it says, and this is a quote that he made. It said, Theodore Roosevelt, a thorough knowledge of the Bible, brainy quote. It says, a thorough knowledge of the Bible is worth more than any college education. Theodore Roosevelt biography, author, profession, president, nationality, American. So this was said by an American president. And as a matter of fact, they just took his statue down when it says, I have seen it. And that was the Lord bringing that prophecy to pass, when it says, I have seen princes on horses. Servants on horses and princes on their feet, roughly paraphrased. And that statue that stood outside the museum in New York was evidence of it. And I'm pretty sure that's in Ecclesiastes, the 7th chapter. But nevertheless, that's that knowledge that I'm speaking of, having that thorough understanding of what's going on in the Bible. All right, and then this video, this is just Psalm 64:8. Matter of fact, let's grab that, because this guy's just going to break it all down better than I could. That's why I'm going to play the video. But I'm just giving a scriptural commentary to go along with what you're about to hear and what you're about to witness, because you're living it. You're actually living it with this whole COVID falseness, this fraud that they're perpetrating on the people in order to gain and get control, But this is Psalm 64:8, and it reads, so they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. All right. Let me go ahead and get that Timothy too. This is 1 Timothy 6:20. And it reads, O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science falsely called. So the science that they're using to push this agenda for wearing the mask, to get you to the chip, to get you to the vaccination, to get you to the chip, is all false. It's all lies. they're going back on true science and using false science to push this narrative. All right, because you can't restrict the breathing, the your respiratory system. You can't do that. Viruses don't go airborne. All right, anything that goes airborne is a bioweapon. Point blank, period, man. All right, that's why the military, in the military, we carry gas masks on our sides. And we would have the gas drills. They would scream gas, gas, gas. You'd have to don and clear your mask. All right. A surgical mask doesn't work in that way. Neither does a cloth one. All right. You don't understand that the viruses are so microscopic. Those masks wouldn't keep a virus in or out. It doesn't work like that. All right. A surgeon wears a mask so that he doesn't, and the nurses and the people that are standing around the person whose body is completely open and exposed, they wear a mask so that they don't sneeze, cough, or into the open wound to infect it when it's open. That's why they wear the mask. It's not to protect them from breathing in anything. If that was the case, they'd have on full chemical suits, that sort of thing. They'd be operating with their hands inside of a machine and with gloves on, reaching in to do the operation. So, walking around with a mask is doing nothing but restricting your respiratory system and compromising your immune system, making you more susceptible to catching the viruses that they're actually going to release for real, which is coming up. And all you people who are going to be foolish enough to take that vaccination, why? Because of the miseducation and the false education done by your schools and your mainstream media to dumb you down, to control you. Another quick scripture. This is Sirach 10 and verse 8. And it reads, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. So there's a lot of riches being gotten and a lot of deceit and a lot of injuries done to a lot of people in order for them to, because there's certain people that are making a killing. The people who deal in sanitization products, hand sanitizers and alcohols and that sort of thing. The people who deal with the ventilators, the people who are making the masks, the materials that make the masks, they're making a killing. While everyone else is losing their jobs, their homes, and millions of evictions in America are going out today. All right, so a lot of people are going to get those notices this week that they're no longer going to have a place to live as the second lockdown is going into place, which is going to be really to push forward this false agenda. And see, our people have cleaved on to the false ways in the past. And a lot of our people are still going to follow and listen to Esau, Edom today. Give you an example. This is in the book of Maccabees. I think it's 4 and 10. Actually, I'm going to start at verse 5. And it said, he went to the king not to be an accuser of his countrymen, but seeking the good of all, both public and private, for he saw that it was impossible that the state should continue quiet, and Simon leave his folly unless the king did look thereunto. But after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus called Epiphanes took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, and Jason was a wicked Israelite, labored underhand to be a high priest. See, using the scriptures, using the the doctrine. And you got guys that do that. Like you got guys that get on this whole Israelite thing just because they understand that it's lawful, in the Bible to have multiple wives. And you'll have guys that get in just so they could get women or get a wife or a woman. And it's like, if that's your motivation, man, you're probably not going to make it. All right. But it says, for he saw that it was impossible that the state should continue quiet. Salaki, I read that. It said, yeah, he was undermined to be a high priest, verse 7. Verse 8, promising unto the king by intercession 300 score talents of silver and another revenue 80. So he's trying to buy his way into position to earn a position with the Edomites. And so the Edomites are going to be, well, then you need to push forth this doctrine, kind of like Israelite, sect that has a 501c3 charter, because you can't teach the full gospel, you can't teach the name, but then you're still going to have Israelites that are, foolish enough to follow man and be a part of, gatherings, be a part of a called out church like that. Well, they're not called out at all, or many are called, but few are chosen. So, verse 9, besides, he promised to assign 150 more if he might have license to set him up a place for exercise and the training of youth in the fashion of the heathen, to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochians, and that's your public schools and your media. Leaving our ways and following the ways of the enemy and being dumbed down with a false education which is backed by fake science, pseudoscience. Verse 10, when which the king had granted him, he had gotten into the hand of the rule, forthwith brought to his own nation to the Greekish fashion. So he disregarded the scriptures, disregarded the truth of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, which the same people he got it from, one of their leaders, one of their presidents told you that a thorough knowledge of the Bible far out surpasses any master's degree, any PhD, any sort of degree that they can get. Because this is the knowledge on how to rule over the nations and the people. Now, without any further ado, this is a 10-minute video, but we're just going to listen to like the first 3 minutes of it and let Psalms 64 and 8 happen. All right, so without any further ado, let's play this video.
Resist much, obey little. Once unquestioning obedience, once fully enslaved. Once fully enslaved, no nation, state, city of this earth ever afterward resumes its liberty. These were the words of caution which the great poet Walter Whitman offered to his fellow Americans. For Whitman recognized that crucial to a free and flourishing society are men and women who are willing to question and even resist authority when necessary. But today, very few of us live by the ideal espoused by Whitman. Rather, blind obedience is the norm. We have become populations of sheep, easily to be herded into the chains of tyranny. But what has led those of us in the West to largely shun the advice of Whitman? In this video, we will examine two institutions that have played an integral role in the breeding of a passive citizenry: the compulsory state-run education system, which in North America is called the public school system, and the mainstream media. Public schooling...
Let me pause it right there. Elder Tazadakbar, one of our beloved elders, one of the heads of the Great Millstone, was the first person I ever heard here referred to this very school system as the American fool system, because that's exactly what it is, because they're teaching you how to be a fool.
Is viewed as one of the shining lights of the modern Western world. Who could question the value of an institution that provides free and compulsory education for all? But as with many institutions of our day, the textbook picture of how the institution should work greatly diverges from the reality of how it does work. If public schools taught individuals how to think, if they promoted intellectual curiosity and produced citizens healthy in body and mind, then few would question their value. But beneath the veneer presented by the bureaucrats that run this institution, a darker reality emerges. Or as John Taylor Gatto, a former teacher turned one of public schooling's greatest critics, writes, "Schools are intended to produce formulaic human beings whose behavior can be predicted and controlled. To a very great extent, schools succeed in doing this, but in a national order in which the only successful people are independent, self-reliant, confident, and individualistic, the products of schooling are irrelevant. Well-schooled people are irrelevant. They can sell film and razor blades, push paper and talk on telephones, or sit mindlessly before a flickering computer terminal. But as human beings, they are useless. Useless to others and useless to themselves. Noam Chomsky echoed this sentiment, writing in his book Understanding Power.
It's easy to control the population when you can predict what they're going to do because of what you have taught them, what you have instructed them in. So it's really easy to set up. Now I completely understand how a few people can rule over millions of people. I understand that now. I couldn't understand that when I was a child. You know, that was a question that baffled me when I was in school. How do you get all these people to follow bullshit? And now I understand how.
Given the external power structure of the society in which they function, the institutional role of the schools, for the most part, is just to train people for obedience and conformity, and to make them controllable and indoctrinated. To some, this may sound like heresy, but a study of history reveals that this was the intention from the very start. The state-run school systems in the West were modeled off the factory style of education first introduced in Prussia in the early 1700s.
So there you go, man.
What shocks,
let's take that back.
Education first introduced in
why factories? That's why the desks are in straight line and across and like that. They're getting you to be a good worker, be a good to have that hive mentality where you really don't think, you just react. And you react in a way which is easy for them to manipulate and easy for them to figure out, and then they pick servants of you to be taskmasters, and then they mold you on a slightly higher level, but nevertheless the same molding. It's all to support the people at the top, and being that, you know, Amalek and Esau is first in this world, all right? Because the Lord said He would have war with Amalek from generation to generation, and it says Amalek was the first of the nations. Meaning that going back to that Hebrew word Rasyath, the first world, he has this first world, and this is the recipe that he uses to control it. All right, which is why they pulled the Bible out of school, they pulled that out of school, and they pulled civil law out of school. Now you have to go to get a lawyer to deal with legal issues, and the lawyers and all lawyers are sworn to the bar, British Admiral Royalty, you know, or registry or something like that. And they're all I forget, but they're all sworn to that, and not the law, because they're sworn to that you know, to that UCC laws, which they're what's 500,000, 5,000+ UCC laws, so they're gonna find something to circumvent the U.S. law, which is supposedly the Constitution, which contains the Bill of Rights. But they're going to get that, and so the different states see this. How you know this is all confusion, because then the different states have their own laws and they get around, and this is how they do. They take something. That's why they pull things out of the federal court, out of civil court. And they bring it into the state courts. Then the state judges you through a whole other set of laws, which is attached to the UCC laws. So the people can't win. They have no knowledge and no understanding. All right. I'm going to read the book of Judith out of the 5th chapter of Judith, just to bring further understanding on what is going on here and how we need to follow our laws, and the Lord is going to deliver us out of this impossible condition that we're in. Because now the lockdowns are coming, the fines for not wearing a mask, you know, they're gonna make yourself sick. You know, I always use the analogy of blocking the exhaust pipe on a car. If you restrict the exhaust on the car, the engine will eventually die. Well, if you restrict your exhaust pipe on your body, well, you're going to eventually die. The same thing. Your engine is going to begin to break down. Your engine check light is going to come on. All right? Because remember, the car was modeled, you know, basically after the human being. The engine being, you know, the operating apparatus of your organs, your heart, and the exhaust being your respiratory system. Oxygen comes in through the filters, and then the energy used, the waste energy, is pushed out through the exhaust system. Well, that's the same thing happens when you breathe. So when that's restricted by something covering it, you're breathing in your own exhaust, your own waste, which over time will destroy you, weaken your immune system. All right, but this is and make you more susceptible to getting sick. So you're going, this second wave is really, this time is going to be real. People are really going to get sick by the thousands daily, more than likely, over a short period of time. All right. But this is Judith, the 5th chapter, starting at verse 17, because this is the real reason right here why Esau set up his education system to get us around that education of the Bible, because he knows that we are the people of the Lord. So he took away the name and gave us Jesus Christ, God, and Jehovah, and these other names. He took away the true name, which is Yahweh or Yahweh Shai, all right, and gave us falseness and gave us a false education as this. And it reads, Judith 5 and 17, and whilst they sinned not before their power, they prospered, because God that hateth iniquity was with them. See, we weren't in our iniquity, so the Lord was with us. Yahweh was with us. All right. But when they departed from the way which he appointed them, they were destroyed in many battles, very sore, and were led captive into a land that was not theirs. And the temple of their power was cast to the ground, and their cities were taken by the enemies. But now they are returned to their power, and they are come up from the place where they were scattered, and they have possessed Jerusalem, where their sanctuary is, and are seated in the hill country, for it was desolate. Now therefore, my Lord and Governor, if there be any error against this people, and they sin against their God, let us consider that this shall be their ruin, and let us go up, and we shall overcome them. So what does Esau do? He sets up an education that makes us continually sin against our power. The woman over the man, the foods that we eat. You know, they disregard the order that the Lord set up and follow Esau's false order. All right. But now that the people of the Lord are returning, these curses are now, that's why Babylon is falling, and COVID is just a cover to hide the collapse. All right. Or basically they're giving it a something to point at, because they can blame the collapse on COVID and BLM and Antifa and all that. All right. When America was already, remember, 25,000 stores shut down in 2019. Because why? Because America was in full-blown collapse. So COVID came out to cover that up, to cover up the collapse and have something to point the finger at. Because they just couldn't let it collapse on their own, because it would just expose the lie IQ. That they are not smart, they're not that intelligent. What they're really good at is manipulating people and lying to people, and it all caught up to them. Verse 21. If there be no iniquity in their nation, let my Lord now pass by, lest Yahweh defend them, and that God be for them, and we will become a reproach before all the world. And that's what's about to happen. All right, but it's going to get real ugly for Israel, you know, over the next upcoming months, and for everyone else here as well. But the elect are going to be rescued out of this mess. So hold on. All right, fasten your seatbelt, get ready for the ride, stay prayed up. Call Halal Yahweh Bashem Abishai, Bashem Brakak Wadash, Wa Abba Shalom.